questing the Dharma. Let's look at initial verse. The Tathagata's teachings are extremely profound and wondrous principles. Right, extremely profound. That's because the worldly words, right, cannot express the truth. So truth has to be well learned and understood. And that's why it's meant by extremely profound. So if we listen to the Dharma, we listen to those words, and words can only give you worldly understanding. So that's why you need to go into contemplation to understand the profundity of the words spoken. And wondrous principles. Therefore, without that profound understanding, one may not fully appreciate the wondrous principles. So when we hear the Dharma and faithfully accept it, we practice diligently and with focused minds. So when we hear the Dharma and faithfully accept it, this is sometimes when the Dharma is spoken, chances are we do not fully understand that because we have not fully realized the profound meaning of the Dharma. But this is where faith is important. So if I think it's okay if someone were to question what is being said or what is being taught as part of the need to seek for the understanding. But once that you have that doubt cleared and then you have faith in that, then we must practice diligently from that understanding, from that realization with the focused minds. And this focused minds, it's obviously is a major challenge for all of us, especially when we are householders in practice. And because we can be easy, because so much noises in the world, and that would distract us. So and therefore we need to be focused. We further retain and uphold the Tathagata Gaba consciousness. So this is the having that conscious. All of you who have listened to my sharing in the past, we know that I have mentioned a lot of times that for one to really grow into have the extreme understanding of the Dharma has to grow in consciousness. If we just remain in a mind consciousness, which is sixth consciousness, one will not be able to get the realization of the Dharma. So what is this consciousness? So this consciousness is one that enables you to change your character, then you know that you have grown to your seventh consciousness. Okay, if you can go now to the next level to say that I am able to accept my life becomings that come to me, be some of my karmic retribution, make peace with it, learn from it, repay it, and fulfill it, you have gone up to the eighth consciousness. So until that whole eighth consciousness is totally clear off, then you'll be able to reach the ninth consciousness, which is obviously the supreme enlightenment, or the state of enlightenment. But what we need to do is to hold that aspiration and to uphold that aspiration. Then we will be able to go through lifetime after lifetime. So this is how we will have that aspiration to practice into the mind continuum, right? That means you can practice beyond this lifetime. Though our bonds and afflictions have not been eradicated in this lifetime, in a future lifetime, we can retain the Tathagata's view of the wisdom, which is I've just mentioned there, right? So through our bonds, though our bonds and affliction, obviously we cannot fully empty the karmic storehouse in the eighth consciousness. So therefore, in this lifetime, we have not fully eradicated that, but therefore, in the future lifetime, we can attain the Tathagata's virtue of wisdom. So how do we do that? Retain and uphold. This is the part that upholding that aspiration to do that. So Master's explanation. The Dharma is intimately related to our living. Now, this is especially for us as a householder. So for householder in practice, we still have a worldly life. We haven't left the worldly life to be in the monastic life. So therefore, that does not mean that we should slack in our practice, because living is actually part of the practice of the Dharma. And if you look at learning the Dharma, is that the first stage of learning, I read the Dharma book, so you learn through your eyes. The second stage is that you listen to the Dharma, so you learn through your ears. The third actually is experiencing the Dharma. So therefore, this part of experiencing the Dharma is learning the Dharma, is living in accord with the Dharma. So when we live in accord with the Dharma, then you have an understanding of what is to come in your life. So what is there to come in your life, and you understand the Dharma, you understand the Four Noble Truths, you understand the Noble Eightfold Path, then you know the understanding of the cause and effect, right? And also the traveling of causation, and you know birth and rebirth. So with that understanding, so life has a purpose. So when this life has a purpose, and the Buddha taught us on the threefold karma, the body, speech, and how we must earnestly practice the 10 good deeds. So when this life has a purpose that come to us in the course of a living, all this karma will unfold on us. Okay, so if we do not watch our body, speech, and mind, we'll create more karma. So therefore, the purpose is to reduce the karmic seeds in our karmic storehouse. So when we reduce this, all this living that we have, this life becomings that unfold before us because of our past karmic causes, will give us a chance to learn the karmic lessons in this life. Whatever karmic debts that arise, you're able to repay them. And whatever karmic responsibilities that you have, you'll be able to fulfill them. Now, these three karmic unfoldment is very typical for us as a householder. But more so, when that unfold, we got to be very mindful of our actions. So we tend, when things happen, when karmic retribution comes about, and someone who is not mindful in the practice, even though someone who knows the Dharma well, but has not grown in consciousness to be mindful and aware, and that's when someone will quickly react with anger or whatever habitual tendencies they may be. But someone who is able to be in state of calmness and accept the Dharma, and in samadhi, then be able to, instead of reacting, one will respond with a good action, good speech, and a good mind. Then we must earnestly practice the 10 good deeds. So Master spoke for the past few days based on the video recording about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. So that is obviously when we do understand that, we undertake the precepts, right, in our practice. So when we undertake the precept and practice, this is to avoid rebirth in the lower three realms. So we now practice, my master going now to the 10 good deeds. When we practice the 10 good deeds with wholesome action, wholesome speech, and wholesome mindfulness, that will elevate ourselves. Not only that we do not have rebirth in the lower realm, we have rebirth in the heavenly realm. But as I mentioned before, the heavenly realm is still not the realm of enlightenment. So we need one to go beyond the heaven. That's why we got the hearers, the Pachaka Buddhas, and the Bodhisattva path. So why do our minds and relationships fall out of harmony? And this mainly because the way we react. So we react to whatever karmic and whatever life becomings that come from a living with unwholesome body, unwholesome speech, and unwholesome mind. That's when this harmony will come in. So this karmic arise, someone gets between us, causing us to grow distant in our relations. So this is where we, like Mr. System would say, we have affinity that have established in this lifetime. So this affinity must be grown. So and good, we don't want in this lifetime, we don't want to have good affinity because of our own habitual tendency and affliction, become bad affinities in our future lifetimes. Not only that, so whatever bad affinity we may have, like Robert says, Tzu Yang. So the Tzu Yang come to us, we need to learn to try to convert that bad affinity into good affinity. So in society, factions fight each other because they're unable to find peace and harmony in our hearts. So that's what we you know, in the 1900s, in the 20th century, there have been 2 world wars. And if you want to track in the 1900s, which I just recently was trying to track through the various websites, the number of wars we have, it is inconceivable. And we continue to have some of these regional wars going on. And the wars today are somewhat maybe in a different way. So this is caused by gossip gossip hardships in our life. And this is the karma of the speech. So we must think earnestly about whether the Dharma is truly a part of our life each time we open our mouth. So therefore, in living, in our daily living, when we practice the Dharma of the speech, so we got to be able to respond in a wholesome manner. So the wholesome way to respond to a speech can only come about from a wholesome thoughts, because it's from the thoughts, it means the mind, which generates the speech. But that thought can only be wholesome if one understands the Dharma well. So when we and sometimes we do, we must immediately repent. So we must recognize that we say something wrong. So we do. So repentance is purifying what we say. So if things that in a rage of anger may say something which is unwholesome, one should apologize. If not, one should do his own self-reflection and correct and avoid doing that in the future. So therefore, our daily living will then be pure. And this is what the practice is about when we practice the Dhamma. Even if we are unable in this lifetime, we completely eliminate our afflictions. In our next slide, we'll continue the unfinished work from this one. And this is about practicing into the mind continuum. And this practicing the mind continuum can only happen when you have grown in your consciousness beyond your mind consciousness. And this, and so obviously, it's not easy to change our character, right? So we continue to do what is good, we avoid doing what is bad. So over time, so this repeated action of your body, repeated good speech, and repeated good thoughts will become a new habit. So that new habit will enable you to change your character. And that's where you'll be able to grow into the higher consciousness, because this seed has already been planted. So this, how the seed is being planted through our character. Let me continue in the lifetime, into the next lifetime. So we must take in the Dharma, this virtuous teaching, they are like seeds. Therefore, we must mindfully, we must be mindful as we engage in a spiritual practice in our daily living. So if we would just learn the Dharma, we do not practice it, we do not correct ourselves, how can the seeds be planted? The seeds are not even there. So it was just an academic subject. So it's just like reading, a book. So requesting the Dharma, the Buddha originally wanted to share his enlightened state of mind with all sentient beings in the hope that everyone could return to the nature of true suchness. Sadly, they were unable to accept the teaching, so he split into the great and small vehicles. Now, you know there are 5 periods of teachings. The first period is Avatamsaka Sutra. Now, I don't know very much about Avatamsaka Sutra, but from my limited understanding, the Avatamsaka Sutra, upon the Buddha attained enlightenment, that teaching was on enlightenment. So, and obviously there were a lot of invisible beings who were listening, but that was difficult to understand. So when the Buddha attained enlightenment, he actually felt that he wasn't sure whether he wanted to teach the Dharma, because he knew that the minds of people, minds of men, will find it very difficult to understand. And so the Brahma king pleaded to the Buddha to share the Dharma to the world. Now, so therefore, the first one is Avatamsaka Sutra, and that is to share his, wanted to share his enlightened state of mind, and it was difficult understanding. So that's why the second period of teaching was about noble evil path. So Sariputra, who heard, and then obviously then there was further period, and Sariputra, who heard the Buddha constantly praise the true and wondrous principles of the Lotus Sutra as unsurpassed and extremely profound. So that was one being thought, but how wondrous is it really? The Buddha constantly praised it, but it has not helped us really understand it. So for the sake of the Fourfold Assembly, Sariputra continued to request teachings from the Buddha. He asked 3 times, and not until the 3rd time did the Buddha begin to teach the true Dharma, which is the Lotus Sutra. So this requesting of the Dharma is being practiced until today. So when we this tradition, when we meet the Dharma Master, this is very prevalent actually in the Theravada practice. Someone will have to request for the teaching before the Dharma Master will be able to deliver that teaching. So in much the same way, when we invite a Dharma Master to give a teaching, so the invitation has to be sent out. So when the Buddha agreed to teach the true Dharma, 5,000 people unfortunately left the assembly. That's because the karmic conditions had not matured. Since they did not have the right condition to accept the Dharma, true Dharma, it's good that they left and not influenced those who remain. Obviously, all of us have limited capabilities to understand, but what is important is to be able to understand as much as we can and be able to go into the mind continuum into our future lifetimes. So those who remain have already formed great aspiration and make great vows to walk the Bodhisattva path. So these great vows, that's why it's important for us to make these great vows, and these are our aspirational vows, so that when we come back to continue into the Bodhisattva path that we have in this lifetime undertaken. And those some of you who has already made those vows in the past, that's why past life, and that's why you continue to undertake the Bodhisattva path in this lifetime. So the lessons learned. Even if small or medium vehicle practitioners eliminate their afflictions, there are like dust-like afflictions that remain. And because they're not fully enlightened yet. So imagine that if the Sarakas, the hearers, are not even, they are enlightened but not fully enlightened. So imagine the afflictions that we have. So obviously for us, as how it was the coarse affliction, the big affliction, or the lumpiest of all affliction, is easy to correct. So that's why the Buddha gave us 5 precepts. First of all, refrain from killing, so we do not kill, right? We're not murderers. So this is a big affliction that we don't get rid of. So therefore, this why we need to undertake the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are to avoid this big lumpy afflictions. But as we begin to cultivate more and more, there will be smaller afflictions that we must be aware of. Until there is dust-like affliction that we totally purified, that's where we continue to empty our karmic storehouse. So he told the 2 vehicle practitioners that because they had remained, they must now accept the great Dharma vehicle. So, which is the door of Bodhisattvahood. It's from the door of Bodhisattvahood that one can enter the door of Buddhahood. And those who remain, the 2 vehicle practitioners who remain, not must accept this great vehicle Dharma, of which on this path we have already accepted. So we must completely accept these 2 true principles. Only by penetrating this principle can we connect with the wisdom. So what do you mean by penetrating this principle? Penetrating this principle, as I said at the very beginning of the initial verse, is to grow in the profound realization that can only come about when we continue to practice until we reach to the higher consciousness. So having eliminated delusions of views and thinking, we must begin to learn how to go among people that is truly engaging in spiritual practice. So eliminate delusions and views of thinking is through our own learning, own practice to learn and also to experience the Dharma. So only when we learn, then we can go amongst the people. And because we have to illuminate ourselves, be able to be able to guide others, then we are truly then only engaged in a spiritual practice. So practicing only just for ourselves will not get you supreme enlightenment. So we have to go among the people to exercise that compassion and wisdom. So there are two very important things that in a Bodhisattva path. I use the word virtues. Virtue because virtues encompass complete compassion. But to be compassionate, there are a lot of other virtues. So it's virtues and wisdom. So this is where the path, the Bodhisattva path is. After that has been completely accomplished, we will not experience future incarnations. So that's the state of enlightenment. So we're out of samsara. We are even out of this heavenly realm that I just mentioned. So it is rare to take a rebirth as a human and encounter the Dharma. So how rare? Okay. So this is a bit of research that I just want to share with you in perspective how rare it is to take rebirth as a human being. Now, I don't have the full details, but this is the little bit that I know. You know that the insects, one human life on Earth, there are about 200 million insects. Or in terms of the mass or the weight, is about 300 pounds of insect is equal to 1 pound of human. So that is perspective, you know. Imagine one insect is one rebirth. You know, and I haven't even counted the animals there, right? It's only insects alone. Okay, it's 200 million to 1. So 200 million life rebirth of a insect life is one human life rebirth. Okay, and then this is in relation to the biomass of all living things. Okay, they are not necessarily being including plants. This is what I got. Humans account for only 0.01% of biomass in this world. Okay, but the plants constitute 82%, bacteria 13%, animal kingdom 0.4%, and others. But in the animal kingdom 0.4%, our human being is 0.01%. So even perspective between the insects, okay, we look at it at the animal realm. In the animal realm, you know, it's less, it's 0.0000105%. So it is, even from that animal realm to the human realm, it's already rare. What about from how many look? I don't even know how many hungry ghosts there are and how many hell beings there are. And so therefore, this rebirth that we have is very rare, and that's the reason why we have to really, really appreciate this life that we have encountered Dharma, even after the rebirth in this human life. How many of us that get to encounter the true Dharma? So therefore, in contemplation, spiritual teachings come to us in essence with words that cannot completely explain. I think I shared with you all before, and also in the context of today and in the initial verse. So that is why when you listen to the Dharma, you listen to the essence of the words expressed through the heart. So what do you mean by expressed through the heart? Yes, when you listen to the Dharma, you do not just listen with your ears. You listen with your heart. It's the heart and the profound understanding through the heart comes from the question in your heart. So when you listen to the Dharma, you listen to the question in your heart. So practice well to remove the obscuration and castration to enable you to listen well to the essence of the teachings. So remember, just I mentioned earlier, when Sariputta requested for the Lotus Sutra, because he heard the Buddha praising the Lotus Sutra, but he doesn't know how to practice. That's why when Sariputta listened, he listened to the question in his heart. That's why he requested to how to practice the Lotus Sutra. So when we practice well, we remove the encrustation of obscuration and of our mind, encrustation of our heart, They're able to listen well. So this is a practice of how they remove it through the flawless studies. So by keeping precepts and then in samadhi, so they'll be able to listen well to the essence of the teachings. So the purer the heart, that's why it removed in translation. And the deeper is the understanding. Because when our heart is pure with compassion, and compassion is practicable. Start by giving, start by caring, start by serving, caring for other people. And when we lose this self-interest in us, your heart will become purer, and then you get a deeper understanding. Then the clearer the mind, the brighter is the knowing. And that's when you no longer have any obscuration to understand the Dharma. So on relationship, now today is a relationship more with the master. I may have said something similar with you before. This relationship with the master. As a disciple, you must have the utmost gratitude to the Dharma master who brought you the teachings. And it's important that we must have that gratitude because it's learned, but because without the Dharma master, it's very difficult for us to understand fully what the teachings are. So the master is the one who gives you the wings to fly in your daily life as a householder. And say, I just say, right, this is for us, we are still householder, but you still can in practice. But be able to practice, you are able to begin a path to liberation. So give you the wings. So roots to come back to the Dharma lifetime after lifetime, so that we have the aspiration, the spiritual aspiration of vows to come back, and the reasons to stay in the path of practice. Okay, Gan En brothers and sisters, thank you.
Yeah, Gan En so much to our brother Chin for another round of brilliant sharing. Indeed, very, very insightful. Yeah, Gan En so much.